Welcome to Rethink Dialogue. In today's episode, we're going to have a compelling conversation with Marshall Manson, who is the CEO of Ogilvy PR in the UK. Hi Marshall, welcome to Rethink Dialogue. First question, as always, what's your background, both personal and work-wise?
Well, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia in the US, which is in the South, the old South. I grew up eating all kinds of crazy things and listening to all kinds of down-home music. I went to a small university, and there I started working in US politics. I ran political campaigns in the US for about 10 years.
Wow.
And then I moved to Washington, where I got into more honest work, which is to say marketing and communications. After a couple of years with an NGO, I worked for a big agency called Edelman. They moved me to London in 2008, and I've lived in London ever since.
Wow.
And I joined Ogilvy, having left Edelman, I joined Ogilvy in 2013. And here I am.
Here you are. So tell me a little bit about Ogilvy and your role there.
Ogilvy's cool. Ogilvy for me is sort of where the world of marketing communications is going. We've got an ad agency, we've got a digital agency, we've got people who get direct marketing, we've got a PR agency, we've got a shopper marketing agency, all under one roof, all kind of deep specialisms, as we like to talk about it, kind of working together. And Ogilvy's been kind of focused on delivering great integrated work for 2 decades. Kind of got integrated, I suppose, before anybody quite understood what that was. But what's interesting is, you know, in the world around us now, the agency landscape, you know, work is converging. Specialisms are converging. You know, digital agencies are creating great ads. Ad agencies are creating great digital work. PR agencies are creating great ad campaigns. And in a converged world, I really like the idea that Ogilvy, across its family of specialisms, still has the deep specialty, but can deliver against kind of any client need, against any consumer need, all kind of built on the basis of great ideas, a foundation of great ideas. And that, to me, is Ogilvy in a nutshell. And then my role is kind of really fun. I, at the moment, sit across Ogilvy Group, looking after social media in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Which means I sort of get to stick my fingers in any number of pies.
Yeah, I guess that's challenging. That's challenging as well.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it, but you're right. It's kind of on any given day you could be asked about pretty much anything under the sun, which means you really do have to be, I suppose, the old expression, a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yeah.
You know, somebody more obnoxious might say knowledge a mile wide and an inch deep. But we do our best.
Okay. So based on your role, well, I started to get to know you when you were working for social at Ogilvy.
Yep.
And now you've kind of moved into a more, like you said, a more cross.
Yeah, so just recently I was named CEO of Ogilvy PR London. So that's me going out of the social discipline, kind of that sort of group role, and taking on a new role which is much more focused on one part of the Marcoms arena. That's quite interesting to me because the world, you know, we talked about convergence, but it's also becoming more and more about earned. You know, needing to earn attention, earn space, earn sharing. And to me, what the PR world offers us is that great thinking about how to build ideas that really do earn attention and space and sharing and so forth.
So how do you think is the best way to engage clients or the client's audience today?
That's a great question. I think you have to engage audiences on their terms. I think you have to understand what interests them, why they behave the way they do, what brings them together, what common interests they have, and then I think you have to create content for them. I think so often over the last few years especially, you know, people like me whose specialty's been social media, we've been creating lots of brand content. That is the brand telling a story in the way the brand wants to tell it. I think we drifted a little bit too far away from creating content that's for audiences, something that they'll actually care about. And I think we've got to get back to that. We've got to get back to creating things that people will actually be interested in, as opposed to you know, just things that the brand wants to say.
Yeah. So I remember actually the founder of Ogilvy said that if you're going to create something, think like it's think of it like you're talking to your wife, which kind of means that you have to respect the audience and kind of not waste the space or waste their time.
Yeah.
How much of the spirit of Ogilvy is still at the office or at the company?
Oh, massively. I think what you've just described goes right to the heart of how Ogilvy creates for its clients. I think there's something else in that quote from David that you just mentioned, which is there's also a level of openness and authenticity and familiarity that comes from treating the audience like your spouse or your partner. That to me, you know, when you think about what sort of content we want to be creating, you know, the word got slightly worn out a few years ago, but authenticity really does have to be at the key of what we are and what we do. I think still even today, after, you know, 15 years of the web and 10 years of social, I think not enough brands really understand what makes them authentic. I think there's still a journey for many to get that exactly right.
Yeah. Speaking of content, which everyone is talking about at the moment, so what's your perspective on content marketing?
Look, I think every brand has to be a publisher to some degree. I think that's just required. That's sort of in the same way that any brand who wanted to be active in marketing had to have some sort of ad campaign in the past. I think every brand has to behave like a publisher. But behaving like a publisher has certain tenets that come with it. That need to be timely, that need to be relevant, that need to be editorial, the need to be creating content, as I said before, that earns attention and earns its share of space, if you like. And if you earn attention and you earn space, I think you earn scale as well. So from that standpoint, those to me, those are some of the key principles of content marketing. But I think there's one other thing as well. I think we in the marketing world, we're creating a huge amount of content, and a lot of it is garbage. And that's not to say it's bad. Fundamentally, I'm just saying it's waste. It's refuse, because nobody cares about it. Nobody engages with it. Nobody passes it along. Nobody consumes it front to back. Nobody really ever invests thought in it. And I think to me the kind of key message for me in content marketing is creating great content that's editorial and timely and relevant and earns attention, as I said, but also delivering it to people at a time they actually want it. That is a time that's valuable. So for me, it's sort of understanding audience interests and intent. You know, is this audience, is this group of people kind of ready and interested in what we've got to say? Great. Well, let's make sure they hear it. Let's make sure they engage with it. But if they're not, let's not create something just for the sake of creating something. And in that sense, you know, we've been through a period the last few years, and Lord knows I was one of the advocates for it. We've been through this period of always-on content. I think we're ready to move past always-on content now. I think we need to be creating content for a purpose, with a purpose.
Yeah. It's I think there's a huge difference between the quantity of content and then the quality of content, which we have to get back to, I think.
Yeah, agree.
Another buzzword that a lot of companies are talking about, and even more now than before, is the word native advertising.
Yeah.
Now there's even coming up these ad companies that can generate and create and place native advertising everywhere.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts about that?
Well, I think first of all, native has already become one of those terms that kind of means different things to different people.
Yeah.
Which is to say, it means nothing at all. I get really nervous about certain kinds of conversation about native because I think publishers and brands as publishers have to be careful on some level to look after their own integrity. So we can't be washing paid messages through media, channels, platforms, sites, whatever, trying to make it look like it's earned or placed or written by someone and actually have it be sponsored. Because that's misleading people. And ultimately, the more you mislead people, the more cynical they become, the less effective it is, and ultimately the more it's going to come back on the people doing it. So that's sort of one reflection on native. But the other reflection on native, I think, to me is much more important, which is these days, in a world with ad blockers, the stats are now crazy. 50% of web users in Western Europe and the U.S. have some form of ad blocker on their phone or their PC, is the last number I saw. Everybody's got ad blockers. If you want to have content that people are going to see, if you want to earn attention, you've got to be in their feed. Now, that doesn't mean their Facebook feed. I just mean the feed. Whatever their feed is. Their feed could be the home screen on their phone. It might be their Facebook feed. It might be Twitter. It might be Instagram. It might be WhatsApp. It might be something else. But you've got to be in their feed. And the only way to get in the feed is to create that content I was talking about a minute ago. Editorially, timely, relevant, interesting, appropriate for the audience, calibrated to their behavior, their interests, their affiliations. If you haven't done that, it's not going to sit in the feed. And when I talk about earning attention, that's really what I mean. Is it good enough that it can sit in somebody's feed comfortably, that they'll actually be interested in it, and they'll ultimately thank you for having it there? That's native working in the right way to me.
Yep.
And yes, we are going to have to pay as brands. We are going to have to pay to get access to those places. But just paying to get a message through isn't good enough. That's not holding up our end of the bargain. To hold up our end of the bargain, we've got to not just pay to get it in the feed, but we've got to deliver something that's actually valuable. Now, valuable can mean lots of things. It can mean funny. It can mean entertaining. It can mean, here's a discount on your next purchase.
Yep.
But it's got to be valuable in addition to being paid for. And I think, as we were saying a minute ago, too much of the content that we're creating at the moment is refuse, which means it has no value.
Yeah.
We've got to get back and focus on that.
So when something that challenged me many times is thinking about, we have the millennials, which are kind of the ones that most brands are focusing on, and then you have the Generation Z that is coming, the young ones, that kind of have been in the space of receiving content constantly. Everything is in their feed, and they have a different approach and a different attitude to the whole thing.
Yeah.
They're kind of, I don't know, they are just used to it, and they kind of filtered it in a different way.
Yeah, and I think I certainly don't have any real understanding of how what the differences are between somebody who's 10 or 11 years old now versus somebody who's 20. I think we'll see more of those differences going forward, and I think I'm really interested to see kind of the generational qualities that distinguish Gen Z or Z or whatever it is. Somebody will have a new name for it another day. I'm really interested to see what those behavioral qualities look like, because of course I'm an old Gen Xer now, and you talk about all the differences between us and the Gen Y or the millennial group. They were born 80 to 95, so now you've got the next generation that's sort of now coming out of school and beginning to enter the consumer marketplace, and it's going to be interesting to see how they behave. I don't think we have a clear picture of that yet. I certainly don't. But if you think about the dynamics of them growing up, it's not like millennials. Millennials grew up with the web. Okay. Gen Zers or Zers or whatever they are, they haven't just grown up with the web. They've grown up immersed in the web. They've grown up with mobile phones and smartphones as a part of their life continuously. And I'm increasingly conscious that I'm old. I'm now that guy who's sort of out of touch and doesn't really understand what the kids are up to these days. We'll need some data to figure it out for sure, but it's going to be different. It's going to be radically different, and it's going to keep getting different.
True. So your thoughts about social business marketing? So for all these brands that are kind of, what do we do? I mean, I think we've spent a long time now getting to grips with how social media fits in a business context, fits in a marketing context. And for me, the answer to being successful in it is actually really simple. It's focus on what you're trying to achieve, not just in social media, but for the business. So rather than answering the question, how many likes do we want, or how many shares do we want, or
how big do we want our community to be? Actually, let's answer the question, why are we doing this in social media? What is it that we're trying to achieve for our business? And then, just as importantly, what's the value we can bring to people as we interact with them? So, if we answer those two questions with real specificity, and then stay laser focused on 3 or 4 key things that we think we can do for the business, and stay focused on what it is, the value that we're trying to offer to our audiences, actually we're going to get to much better, more relevant, more interesting programming. And I'm working with a retailer at the moment where the business objectives are straightforward. We need to raise brand awareness, in our new markets especially. We need to drive advocacy, and we need to drive footfall into stores. Those are business objectives. There's nothing social media about those. But when you start applying the principles of social media to those business objectives, it becomes really easy to tell if you're moving the lever or not. And so when you view it that way, then actually connecting kind of what you're doing in social back to the business's needs becomes much easier. And you wind up delivering grown-up social programming that actually affects bottom line. And then kind of extending beyond that, you say, okay, if we're going to affect bottom line, what is it that we need? What do we need to do organizationally? Well, and you start having conversations that are much more than marketing. You start having conversations with legal departments over policies and how we communicate and who we interact with and how we leverage and mobilize employees. You start talking with HR departments about your employer brand, because if people won't work with you, then we're not going to buy your product. Or if people won't buy your product, then they're not going to work with you. So, brand and employer need become much more closely related. And of course, it's much easier to recruit in social than it is in almost any other platform, online or off. You wind up having conversations with your customer service people, if you have customer service people. Because actually, 3/4 of the inbound in your Twitter feed, your Facebook page, and whatever else is going to be people who need help. And you want to be in a position to help them and do that authentically. So you have to figure all these things out. It becomes a really interesting kind of structural and organizational challenge that a lot of people in marketing just don't want to take on, and that's cool. But if you want to be a social business, that is to say you want to be a business that is authentic and engages with people successfully and earns attention and earns space and earns scale, then you're going to have to start thinking through some of these challenging questions. But the promise is, if you can do that, even if you can do it halfway, even if you can begin iterating your way to a solution, you can genuinely deliver real business results, real positive effect for your company.
Great. So, final question, which I always look forward to, is so what inspires you? Where do you find inspiration?
In a word, discovery. I love learning new things. I love experiencing new things. I love running into things accidentally and seeing a solution to a problem I didn't even know was there. Discovery is why I get out of bed every day. That's why I go to work. That's why I work in this industry. It's a constant process of learning something new, of improving ourselves, of improving what we do, of learning new things, of applying new technologies to client problems. That's what inspires me, learning new things.
Great. Well, thank you for taking the time, and I appreciate it.